Is it Puchalski or Puchalski? I always screw up with Polish names.
Yeah, it's Puchalski actually.
Oh, so
Just
you're a
drop the
Midwestern
C.
Midwestern Polish guy then.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All that time in Pittsburgh has, yeah.
CEO and founder of Bucket Robotics. You guys worked, Alex and Matt. You guys both worked together at Argo, correct?
We did. And I'm very upset with you, Matt, because for the 4 years I was at Argo, I referred to you as Puchalski.
Oh, brother, it's, I don't know, it's simultaneously too much time in Catholic school and not enough, right? Like everybody else in Pittsburgh, they knew how to say my name the right way. You just learned of like rolling on, growing up in New Jersey. If nobody knows how to say this, at least they get the intent. If you can get to me at Slack, that's the most important.
To your credit, Puchalski. When I was at Argo, I was introduced to you, and you were described as the most charismatic um, engineer at the company, and therefore the tip of the spear in any interaction with a government official where something technical had to be explained in such a way that it was digestible but also informative. And some might say that it was suggested that you had these conversations without a communications team member there because you were that good and that trustworthy.
You had a chance to start a company. You started Bucket. Like, what does Bucket do? What problems are you solving?
Yeah. So at Bucket Robotics, we are solving the problem inside of manufacturing, which is improving surface inspection on manufactured parts. And my journey to that was through the time I spent at Argo seeing the bleeding edges of what perception systems and cameras can look like. And then moving out of self-driving and seeing, oh, there's a huge gap here. It's still very much so, some of the most advanced camera systems for manufacturing are still stuck in the year like 2005, and the only difference is that the price has gone up. And so that was the start of what we're trying to, where we started this journey. It's make vision systems better for manufacturing with robots.
Like, what are you actually doing? What is the slot that you're fitting into in manufacturing?
Yeah. So inside of the self-driving stack, right, you have perception, prediction, motion planning, motion control. And the big slice that we have taken is in perception. And then inside of that, it's synthetic data-based camera systems. And so using simulation to train advanced computer vision, and then using as commoditized, as potato-y, as simple, that's sort of our software first approach. It's like, folks, you really don't need to light $100,000 on fire on a very expensive camera, right? Like that's a crock of crap that you're being sold. It is hard. Vision systems are hard, but software makes things a lot easier, and better tooling that tells you, hey, you don't need a better camera. What you really need is a light pointed somewhere in this direction, and that will improve your life tremendously, is the types of that's the types of pushback that we get from our customers and the general public. And that's sort of the fun balance. It's like, we've seen the future. We know that these cameras can work.
What I'm understanding here is that there have been people out there using expensive high resolution cameras for defect detection going back in time, but that doesn't scale, and the cost of those cameras is not coming down sufficiently. Therefore, you're coming in with low-cost cameras plus machine learning.
That's
Is that
exactly right. One of my favorite things is pretty early into the journey with Bucket, we had a customer, and Joel, this is definitely something that you could probably empathize with. We had a customer say, yeah, I believe that machine learning can help me with this, but I don't think you've ever seen such a high noise and vibe environment as insert factory line that I've been working in, right? And it's like, oh gosh, geez, yeah, you're right. If only we as a human species have strapped cameras onto vehicles going at highway speeds for, hundreds of thousands of miles, right, through potholes. Yes.
What was
yes,
this? What was, you don't have to say the company name, but what was the industry that they were in that they thought was so chaotic?
It was a high volume injection molding shop, which there's a lot of vision problems inside of an injection molding facility, right? You get all kinds of funky, but the noise and vibe, I was like, wow, that's a new one. Okay, cool. Not the pushback I was expecting here. Like mounting a camera to another thing like that that's a solved problem. That's just like physics one here, folks. Let's, you know.
How much variance is there within like the types of manufacturing that you guys are able to help?
Yeah, great question. So our customers are in that, and this is something that we've actually spoken about before. It's, you know, folks outside of manufacturing. How do you actually strip it down to the lowest level, right? Our customers are tier ones in the automotive space, or medical device is like hugely, you know, it's people who have a massive contract to a massive assembly, and then they have a very specific type of demand. So we're talking about the again the injection molding facilities that exist across the street from the Ford plant, who are actually producing all of the door handles, you know, the Class A fascia, right? It's the small and medium sized businesses who are manufacturing millions of gears a year for a medical device. And so that's the vision side of things. Where we're seeing more and more demand in the last few weeks actually is in the synthetic data side from a larger set of the populace. And there's a global shift in how manufacturers are changing their actual raw material, building functionally Figma like utilities that are much more GD&T oriented. Um, Gets people excited. And so what I mean by that is, you know, we're starting to see quality engineers showing our synthetic data systems to their design teams, and then the design teams are asking, "Hey, I don't really care about the vision side of things. Can you show us that synthetic data? Can you show us what our existing part might look like if we're shifting to a new material?" I am a someone in manufacturing. I have a massive amount of capex that I am about to light on fire for a to appease an OEM, to appease a larger customer that I'm trying to retain, and I want to have better confidence that I am actually going to produce what they're asking for and still stay in business. This is a problem that's universal to, you know, tremendous amounts of manufacturers. And what that boils down to is, okay, great. Yeah, you can definitely build tooling that roboticists know how to use. You could definitely build tooling for AI dorks of Silicon Valley. But that doesn't matter because those, you know, those aren't the types of people who are working in manufacturing today. What they actually want to know is, here's a tool that looks like the Onshape, the you know, all of the CAD utilities that you're working with right now, and we'll just give you better feedback. That's the fun slice that I'm living in.
What is the magic sales thing that gets them to speak, that gets you speaking the same language?
Yeah, this is an amazing question. I like to sell, you know, the best type of sales is to be authentic. And I pride myself in being a deeply nervous engineer. I am, you know, through and through, that has been the through line of my career, in when I was a co-op at Michelin at the test track, through self-driving to Bucket now. You know, this shirt that I'm wearing right now is a Field and Stream flannel, and the reason that I've had this for my entire career is that it hides the blood and oil stains really well, right? It's that kind of stuff. Where I really honed this into a craft was, I was the reliability engineer, and then I started the reliability team for Argo, and so that really gets you into this bleeding edge of, you're building self-driving cars. Nobody's done that before. But then also thinking in terms of mitigation and remediation. You know, you're trying to mitigate a problem when the robot makes a frowny face and it's stopped at a four-way. You have somebody absolutely panicking inside of the vehicle. So what's the minimum set of information you could tell them to calm them down, get the actual understanding of what's happening, and then get them moving? So that's a whole set of ways that you need to communicate with people. And then there's also the remediation, which is, okay, you are an objectively very smart person with like your own Wikipedia page about some bleeding edge of robotics, but here is the set of information, go fix, go prioritize, and then do that again for the executive team of, this is what we're seeing. And that was my life for jeepers 2017 through yeah, last May, just doing that kind of stuff. And so, I've just built up this weird empathy, I guess is really the best way of empathy for the dorks of Silicon Valley, empathy for the people who are just here to collect a paycheck, and then empathy for the sorts of people, everybody in between, right? There's humans everywhere. And so how do you build a system for all of that? You do it before, and then you keep doing it, and then you really focus in to make a good product is my way of looking at the world. On your podcast, David Moody,
Oh yeah.
speaking of casting, yeah, uh, relatively recently, he and I met at a DARPA had their Freedoms Forge 2.0
I
initiative.
tried to scam my way into that. Yeah.
That was, um, I think, in January in Houston. And what was great was that was during a freak snowstorm. So we were all, snowed in together at the Royal Sonesta. And so we went from a bunch of very passionate people to a bunch of very passionate people who were all, forced to spend a lot of time near each other. And exactly to your point, even inside of the bleeding edge of manufacturing, it was just so much fun to listen to like material science wonks be like, oh no, AI can't do that. It's like, no, you're right. ChatGPT cannot do that. However, let's talk about how, you're describing something that's existed inside of computer vision for like 10 years. So
In a practical sense, more like going to a particular client and saying, "Oh, we can apply these techniques to your data and then teach your systems how to work."
it's to be a very high level, it's building for like the most unsexy aspect of manufacturing, which are the quality managers. It's that weird like liminal space between ops management and like design engineering, and it's actually drilling into how people think in those directions, which is very different from everybody else on the floor. These are like the quality team are measuring their defect rates in terms of like cartage of if I can save some components from being scrapped, or if I could save them from being scrapped sooner, that directly keeps the lights on. And that's yeah.
Curious to know. All right, so how are you getting in front of your customers? Like, what is the what does the sales process look like? Because I mean, I in my fund work, I get pitched tons of companies that sound interesting, and then they ask me like, "Oh, can you help us like?" If you're not coming to me with a solution for that,
So it's hard, but it's a twofer. Number one, or what it boils down to is go where your customers are. It's very simple things like being up at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're on the West Coast, so that way you can have your Microsoft Teams meeting, if you're lucky enough to get a Teams meeting. At 6 o'clock in the morning East Coast, when the first shift's actually showing up, right? It is truly everything goes back to empathy for me. But even better, it's showing up and having donuts in hand and being there at your first shot, because after 9:15 in the
wait,
morning.
literally literally
Oh
donuts.
yeah. Oh my
Literally,
God. Yeah.
you're
I,
bringing
I
donuts.
wish I took
Okay.
more pictures of the amount of like, and okay, so actually inside of bringing donuts, don't overthink it. If you're in a Dunkin' Donuts part of the world, bring Dunkin'. If you're in a Krispy Kreme part of the world, bring Krispy Kreme, right? Just, because they're open, they're hot and ready. But yeah, no, honestly, it's just deeply understand what people care about. It is, manufacturing is very collected. And so when I am, um, visiting home. I was recently in New Jersey, where I grew up for a family event, and I spent some time in Camden at an injection molding facility, and then I asked them, "Hey, who are your suppliers?" And then that's three others. It's moving up and down the supply chain, and all of these are located within like 15 miles. It's you know going to Greenville, South Carolina, Auburn, Alabama. where was I recently? All of the greater Pittsburgh area, right? It's everything is connected, and that is the fun part of it. And even in dense areas like San Francisco, the largest injection molding shop in San Francisco is a block away from this building. I think they're the only injection molding shop in San Francisco. And the guy who runs it is great. His name is Ian. He's amazing. And just, yeah, he found us. He just walked in. So having a specific set of problems solved is nice, and then getting out there and hitting the bricks. Yeah. Oh, also phone calls. Lots of phone calls.
All right, all right, all right. So, all right. So you came out of Y Combinator. So prior to, so what was your, what was the before you had got into YC? What was the status of the company and how did you get in?
Yeah. So we went through Y Combinator in the summer of 2020. We were not a company at the time. The company did not exist. It was um, just an idea that we came up with while at the gym, actually. And so, one of the ideas was Y Combinator. I'm a giant dork. I'm a giant engineer. I do not know what a venture scalable business looks like. Y Combinator is great at teaching people how to build venture scalable businesses. The name Bucket Robotics comes because as part of the Y Combinator process, you have to have a website. And I had the domain bucket.bot because I'm such a gardening and robotics dork. I had this idea for a Home Depot bucket that follows you around in your backyard, not as a venture scalable business, but as something that would do really well on Hacker News and, just be something to sort of play with. And, oh yeah, who gets into YC? And if we do get into YC, we'll change the name later. No, it turns out I like the name quite a bit. And so, yeah, that was late May. We get in and they tell us two things. Number one, you have to incorporate as a company. And number two, you have to get out to San Francisco to go through the program. And I think we had like 8 days. So I packed up, my Ford Bronco was sitting in my apartment or at my house in Pittsburgh, had to find an apartment in San Francisco, and then went through the batch. And that was just a truly amazing experience to meet so many other dorks. Yeah, I keep using these dorks, nerds, but just other
That's fine.
very passionate people.
You can cuss on this podcast. It's totally fine. You can use the D word. Go ahead.
Are you required? I mean, is it? Do you have to sign anything which states that you will not share an opinion that is ambivalent or negative about your fellow cohort companies?
No, God, no.
It's like it definitely seems like at times there's like a percentage where they're like, we have no idea if this idea is good or the team's good, but it only takes like one little bit of intuition for them to go, I don't know, let's just throw them in there and see. And I do wonder, the complementary viewpoint would be like, sometimes you want a little bit of chaos in your data set because you don't know what will happen. But yeah, there's also sometimes I see people run through or see businesses spin out where I'm like, do not get it at all.
Y Combinator is great at bringing out the best in people, and also the application process. I don't know if many people on this show know this, but they make their investment decision in 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute interview with partners, and that's the decision point. And so, one of my favorite things about being a part of the YC network is seeing people just pivot to completely different things. Our initial application to Y Combinator, I think the first sentence was, we want to build a better Intel RealSense. And they helped us get to the heart of that. Why do we want to build a better Intel RealSense camera that is the same team from the Microsoft Kinect, right? What does that actually mean? Well, what it means is cameras are kind of dark magic to a ton of people. That is written for cameras is very bad. And cameras are used in many different robotics and automation applications. So let's build better vision systems to make automation easier. And it took I still would be sitting in my slightly haunted Pittsburgh basement, coming up with a better, Intel RealSense had it not been for the team at YC. not just the team, but the alumni community, just everybody. It's been awesome.
That wasn't that hardware stack originally. Is that it's dual optical and then like an IR blaster or something, right? Is that what you guys
Correct.
basically are too?
No, so that was the original, and then it was like decompose it further of like, you know what really sucks? Lighting a bunch of money on fire on hardware that you're gambling on. You know what's great? If you have leveraged your software experience of working, I've worked at 4 different self-driving companies where you write a bunch of camera drivers and you go through a bunch of different iterations. So leveraging that and then just saying, hey, customer, do you already have a camera? Yes. Run it through our
So you're
system.
more or
Great.
less hardware agnostic. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's some edge case stuff where it doesn't have the capabilities, but like in general, you're hardware agnostic.
Yeah, like, that Isaac Newton, optoelectronic devices are a fiddly thing, right? There's a certain amount where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, that cell phone camera from 2006, like, you're really not going to be able to get the resolution that you want. Here's
And so, what is the business model and product pricing? How does it work with your
Oh yeah.
customers?
So the business model is for the actual defect detection system, it is at a per product basis. It's at a per model basis. So we're generating this, and then here is your bespoke defect detector. Yeah. So the way that our pricing works is that we charge per model for our manufacturing customers. So the fun thing about that is, I don't know how much time you guys have spent around something like injection molding, where it's a very specific. Both of you are shaking your heads in the same way, but in different. So yeah. The actual component that's being produced, that can change pretty tremendously, and your actual downstream implications of what your end quality result is pretty variable depending on where in the lifetime of your mold you are, or who your mold maker is, or what the material input is. And so there's a lot of iteration that goes into that. And so the way that this works is basically we say, hey, if you like this, you are no longer having people draw bounding boxes around where the frowny faces are. You're freeing up your quality inspection team to do the things that they're actually really good at, which is mitigation. It's looking at when those defects happen and then closing that feedback loop of, oh, okay, I see that I have a bunch of weird splotches on my parts. What actually happened here? Do we have an anodization failure? Did we have a polishing error? Right? It's so many different things are caught inside of QA, and then a qualified technician walks over, and then you have 3 people sort of talking to each other, and that's so dumb. We as a human society don't need to be doing that kind of thing.
Are you so by and large, you're stepping into places that are already have some sort of optical defect pass, even if it's like a closed circuit camera on a line that somebody's watching.
Oh, no,
Uh,
no, no. Where most of our customers, it's even dumber. It's even worse than that. Of like, okay, so here's somebody who takes a box of things, and then moves it to a different person, and then they go through the box, and then somebody else goes through the box. Like, yeah.
and so as long as you can get a camera somewhere on the line after the finish, then you can basically pass fail through. And then if it fails, they can spin up a technician or somebody to verify it.
Exactly, exactly. And so, the way that the product is evolving, it's both up and down that slice. It's the synthetic data generation and bringing it closer and closer to the design team, like we spoke about. And then, some of the future work is that defect classification. It's saying, I've identified a failure. I've identified that failure 3 times in the last 4 parts. How do we close that loop and say, geez, I think, there's an inclusion. There's somebody, uh, uh, what's a good one? Somebody opened up the window and then some dust flew in, and now we're seeing the same defect again and again and again, right? It's very easy to build a robot to scan any component and say if it is acceptable or reject. If you always default to every part is always bad, you're probably right in a small enough window, right? Like the hard part is build not just robotic systems, but building systems that actually make a difference. It's finding where is that line between, yeah, there's a defect, but it's on my B side, so the customer will never see this. It's on the bottom of my bucket. So all I care about is, will that bucket sit flat, and can I put my hot stamps onto it? Right. That's the fun. It's the fun aspect of this, to not get overwhelmed by the joys of computer science and saying, oh yes, I could definitely build a perfect robot. It will take me all of the computing in the world, and it will only give you one answer one time. Like, that's crap. Nobody.
I always find these conversations so interesting when we talk to people. Like, I'm thinking of Russell in particular, of like people that came from maintenance, like, and not janitorial, nothing wrong with janitorial, but it's like when they come from the like, I need to know all the steps because they're constantly decaying. And it's not like your C compiler decays every time you compile a piece of code.
You are completely correct, right? If you think about one of my favorite manufacturing just products is the amount of insanity that goes into manufacturing a tire. The amount of like, the tires are absolute freaking magic, right? And then it is just like, okay, well, I've got this like high tension steel, and then I have this, rubber bladder that may fail. Oh, and by the way, the actual secret sauce to a tire is in the compounds themselves. So it's not like, I have an element of, oh, this is a closed wall type of society. And yeah, no, and that's the fun part about why it truly is a robot. You can build a computer vision system, sure, but who in manufacturing is going to say, yes, I already have a fiber optic line, and you can totally have access to my manufacturing process, right? Like, no, you're gonna get told to fuck off. Like, give me a magic box, and then give me something that I know will work, and then yeah.
And
Um,
like lines and how they're built, there's not a lot of uniformity to it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, like, because a lot of times there's accreted wisdom over time where, the whoever's running the shop is like, actually, we're going to tweak this and this based on there's that open window over there that doesn't quite seal right. Cause when this factory was built 30 years ago, they didn't caulk it. There's a bunch of that. And then
30 years ago. Oh God.
yeah, this is a modern, like, but yeah. And then the tires is another great example of something where like, this is just every third episode of this podcast devolves into a car podcast, but it's like tires are something that I don't feel like, unless you're an auto enthusiast, people have any idea how much better they've gotten in our lifetime. And a lot of times when people see like, oh, wow, like cars that are built today are so much faster than they were before. The engines must be better. And it's like, that is true. Like they have gotten more efficient, more powerful. But a lot of it is like, oh, the tires work finally after 100 years. The tires
Let's talk
got
about
really
rolling
good.
resistance.
Yes.
And how big of a
So,
difference.
I mean, I would love to see someone do a column, or maybe we should do an episode about it, about the areas of innovation in which there are no startups, like because it's so difficult, or there aren't sufficient enabling technologies with commoditized inputs. Like how where are the disruptive tire startups? We're not going to see them maybe ever, but not for
I
a
was going
long
to say, if
time.
they do exist, they're in Clermont-Ferrand, France, right? Greenville, South Carolina, or Ohio, or Korea, right? Like,
uh,
yeah.
you I mean, Joel and I meet a lot of people, but I guess, Matt, um how many, in all your interactions with venture capitalists and investors who claim to want to support disruptive startups that will, be part of the reindustrialization effort, how often have you encountered this problem? People who, investors who want to do it, but they don't know anything about it and don't really
Oh,
want to do it.
geez. Well, okay. I may not be the savviest person to ask, because this is, I'm a first time founder with Bucket Robotics. So all of this is new to me.
Sure.
I really like our investors. We've got an amazing cap table, but
You've already got their money. You can stop buttering them up. It's
no, but
fine.
it is
No, I'm
true.
kidding. I'm kidding.
But a better way of saying this is, I actually look to the types of folks who are getting into the space. I'm going to flip it a little bit of the amount of folks that are trying to start a manufacturing startup who were in crypto 5 years ago. The types of folks who,
Do you really think there's a ton of that? Like, I feel
oh,
like most of those
brother.
people go from heat to heat. So it's like they're doing AI startup now versus manufacturing. I don't feel like but tell me if I'm wrong. Like, I just haven't picked up on that.
There's a fair bit, but I guess my general point is, It is a hard road to walk to be inside of manufacturing and physical systems. I think my problem is, or okay, to fully answer your question, you spend too much time on Twitter for manufacturing. Manufacturing doesn't exist on Twitter. Manufacturing only kind of exists on LinkedIn. Actual manufacturing in America happens on the phone, maybe if you're lucky enough to find the phone number of somebody. Yeah, it's a lot of facts. A lot of facts. Yeah, and email. And so that's the, it's more like a measurement bias kind of problem.
Yeah, I mean, like I think about a lot of times when I'm mad that I have to do it, and I say this as a person who like my first real professional job was as like a professional blogger, so I'm part of the problem. But like I think about LinkedIn and things like that, where you look at the received wisdom now of like, well, how does business work? But if you're looking for that online, it's always like have an amazing LinkedIn profile, like do like participate in social media, do all these things. But then when I'm out in the world and working on different businesses, I'll go to uh, trade shows or things like that. And even the people that go to the trade shows are often like the anomalies within their companies. And I remember I went to, it wasn't Manifest, it was another logistics conference a couple of years ago. And I remember because I don't know if they're based where I'm from, but I know they had a big like training center there, JB Hunt, which was like a trucking company, but they're big, right? Like they're I don't know proportionate, but they're big. And they had like a booth, and then I walked into the booth. It was just like three like kind of little old ladies, like they were just like they're doing it. And I was talking to them about a client that I was working with at the time, just to kind of do research to be like, would you ever be interested in talking to them or whatever? And it was like, I, I, I don't know how to say this exactly where it makes, because I'm not trying to say they were dumb. It was this thing where they were like, our business is going great and we don't really use the internet. And it was like really hard to argue with them because it's like, well, yeah, you probably only are signing 100 customers of any scale a year, and you probably have enough sales guys to do that. And those contracts don't roll over except once a decade. And I think a lot of manufacturing ends up being more of that. And then when you put a startup lens on it, you're like, well, if I can look at the whole system and quantify it, then I can start to understand where there are efficiencies. But that really falls apart if your customer base is a totally different business culture than you. And like this, the internet age and the software age is now, in this iteration in 30 plus years. So you have people whose entire careers have been on these different paths who are now trying to figure out how to talk to each other. And it's a lot.
Yeah. And so what's funny about going to those trade shows, right? It's not the folks who are in the booths. It's the types of people who are frantically looking around at the booths. Those are the types of people, it's the people who are going to a trade show to help solve a problem. Those are the
Yeah.
great ones to, right? It's the people who have the most like swag bags and like free totes because they are like, oh man, we have such a massive hair on fire problem and I have to go through, right? But then it is a fun balance of we have bucket robotics bucket hats
Oof. Oof.
because I mean you have to like
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it's inevitable.
I had to. It's so close there. But it's great because it also has helped with recruiting tremendously for hiring computer vision oriented people.
Can we start to make locally? And if not being able, if tariffs screw us or shipping screws us or anything else, wouldn't it be smart to start one of those companies right now? And I would like to see more of the innovation and VC and sort of disruption mindset people looking at that part of the problem.
It's actually, so we haven't spoken about this, but the way that I say it is the engineering tools company that sells engineering tools is like the perfect, I'm waiting for somebody who's doing that, right? It's here is everything that you can buy on McMaster Car, right? And then, part of the VC innovation is and you're going to do it in a robotics oriented way. You're going to say, my manufacturing execution system isn't 4 clipboards and a whiteboard. Let's actually, think about some of the modern software practices. And so if anyone is listening and is incredibly well capitalized and looking to, invest in moderately handsome bald guy, hit me up, Matt Puchalski, Bucket Robotics.
And I think what a reason a lot of it doesn't happen is because a lot of those businesses are going to be necessary and maybe even profitable, but not like wildly like geometrically scalable like growth businesses. They're just going to fit into a spot and be good, but they're not going to look like a Facebook or a Google or a Microsoft.
It takes time. Yeah, it takes time. You're totally right. Growing up in the tri-state area, you look at Bethlehem Steel turning into a casino kind of thing, right? I don't know if you guys have ever been there. It's like the northernmost Waffle House is just outside the door.
I do know.
Yeah.
I know that because I'm from the South and I occasionally crave Waffle House. And so living in New York, like, yeah, I know where the near ones are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I went to college at Georgia Tech, so it's an inverse kind of thing. But no, you're right. It does. I'm excited. I'm waiting. This is the reason that I'm on Twitter. I'm waiting for the day that somebody announces that they've raised a bunch of money to set up that fastener business across the street from Rivian. Right? It's going to be concentrated near somebody who is doing high volume complex assembly. And so what I think is it going to be Ohio, where Anduril is, or outside of the Gundo, or in Detroit, or maybe not. Maybe it'll be.
But if we're declining in the number of job shops and sort of universal component level factories, the capex for those is insane. And it seems like there could be an opportunity there as well to be like to help bootstrap job shops like a machine shop. And it's like, okay, instead of and I'm making up this number, but instead of 60% of every machine shop in the United States being owned by a man who's 70 years old and inherited from his father, and half of the machines are, 50 years old, like what would it look like to clean sheet a machine shop and then have somebody go around almost in like a private equity roll-up model and say, turns out there's not enough machine shops in these parts of the country. And so we're going to bootstrap a bunch of younger like engineer or machinist founders, because it's going to cost $3 million a building to machine or to equip it and do it. But we've got the network and we can help them find customers and we can do demand.
It's this part that, private equity is so fascinating to me. And it is a big aspect of manufacturing in America, right? My mind goes to like the first time I read Barbarians at the Gate in high school kind of thing. But you are right, manufacturing, there is a huge aspect of private equity. And after going through, or as I build a venture scalable business, it is always fun to understand new
yeah, don't get hung up on the
access to
private equity
capital.
stuff. I just mean not VC.
No, totally. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I'm encouraged by TBH. So this is like day 10 of having some job recs out as we're hiring. And I'm so encouraged by the amount of people who are applying to Bucket Robotics who have, it's the University of Michigan's, it's Purdue's, it's K-State, it's really,
it's everywhere
really
that they wear
awesome
bucket hats.
Yeah, well, those are universal. When you're this bald, you gotta, sun protection and safety first.
What is the next? Like, who should be reaching out to you if we happen to catch one of your customers on the podcast? Like, what's the problem that they need help solving that you help solve?
Yeah. So the problem that we help solve is when you are spending so much time on surface inspection of your individual components, that you are paying people to stand there, or you are paying people to work in shifts because it is such a dull job that you like people are just quitting on the spot after days and days, right? It's
You know what I love about that framing is it's like terrible marketing. Like, and if you don't do any of those things, you'd be like, how does this guy have any customers? But then if you are your customer, they're like, someone finally understands me. He knows exactly the problems I'm trying to solve.
I am an engineer at my heart. I am a reliability dork. I am somebody who just wants to, you know, build systems that make people's lives easier, and that can come at the cost of. You're right. I don't know anything about marketing.
I wasn't criticism. I think it's great.
No, yeah.
Yes. Thank you for coming by. If somebody wants to reach out, should they email you or just it's bucket.bot, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So they can shoot me an email. I am matt@bucket.bot. We will be at the Automate conference in Detroit, May 12th through 15th. Come check us out at the startup booth. And if you are an engineer who is looking to work on surface inspection systems, we are hiring. So, or if you're an eclectic billionaire who wants to, reindustrialize, let me know and I'll get you in touch with some.
Or if you just want a
excellent
Homer
people.
bucket with the robotic legs that follows you around. Like these are all things that Matt can solve.
Yeah.
It was great to have you on. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, it was great talking to you guys.